Selectman Troy to the board, and we're looking forward to getting you educated and working with you in the next 3 years. Thank you.
Alright, agenda appointments, Rob Christie's here to discuss his abatement application he submitted March 1st, right, the last select board meeting. So you're up.
I can't hear without my glasses on.
Okay, so I said you're here to talk about your abatement
Yes.
application you submitted a couple weeks ago at the last meeting, right?
Well, I submitted it on the 4th of January, and I guess it was passed on to Jason Call, and I got a response from him. But in attending these meetings, usually the abatements are discussed, and it hasn't come up, and so I resubmitted the paperwork to make sure that it was in by the final deadline. And so I say that I made timely submissions, and usually they are addressed, so I'm wondering if there's a delay. And the basic case is that the law is clear, an assessment must be based on the status of property on April 1st. And the first bill was based on a certain amount. Then there was notations by Jason Call in October, and my assessment went up $30,000 or $40,000. And that's incorrect according to the letter of the law. Just following up on this to find out what the status is, what the next step is. I understand that although Mr. Call is an employee of the town, that the first place of appeal is the Selectboard. I've submitted mine, so where do we stand?
I know Jason has it, and not that I don't assume it will take this long, but he has up until July 1st, according to the law, to give a response.
Well, the Selectboard does. Jason,
And
it's in the Selectboard's court.
the assessor.
Hmm?
I think the law says, Jerry, you might be able to clarify.
The Board of Selectmen are the assessors. So they have, the selectmen, in this case, because there is no Board of Assessing here, they have until July 1st to respond to your request.
Correct.
So the fact that they haven't actually discussed it doesn't mean it's not being worked on. So I guess that's
I
where we are.
understand that timetable. I understand it's lawful. It's just sometimes these things happen a little quicker than that, and I'm wondering.
Correct.
And, you know, I noticed that my assessment went up about the time I started borrowing in on the missing conservation fund. And hope this isn't punitive and you're attending to business, and I will respect the time. Thank you.
All right, the next thing is minutes. There's 3 sets of minutes for March 1st. There's 2 public meetings, sets of minutes and a non-public session. March 1st, for noontime public meetings, go in a non-public session for the interview, and then a non-public session, and then a public session for later at night, March 1st. You gotta sign where it's posted.
We will need to, first one is, need to have a motion to accept. And these, because you weren't there, you can't.
Yep, I make a motion to accept the minutes for 12 PM one on Monday, as well as Monday night at 6:30.
Okay, I'll second that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it.
Next. There's a veterans tax credit exemption request. Tax collector recommends, it's a qualifying request. On the second page, print your name, sign and date.
Okay.
It's for Matthew and Christy Wells of 7 Winter Street.
Are you fellas gonna elect a new chairman, or you just gonna assume that Leon is it?
Well, it's been customary that the
But last year you
The
elected.
selectman in the last year of their term is the chairman.
So you're automatically, because you're the next one up, you're automatically the chair?
Yes.
Okay.
That's been the custom in Lancaster for,
I know, last year you were voted, not saying what.
Second page. Alright, shall we move on? In your packet, there's, appointments for the zoning board, they're actually reappointments. Linda Ogle is seeking reappointment as an alternate member for 3 years, and Steve Young and Les Hilton reappointment for the, for 3 years as regular members. And that, the recommendation comes from, the zoning board, and Rick Blainer signed as the chairman. There's enough to vote to reappoint them if you'd like.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second to reappoint Linda Ogle, Steve Young, and Les Hilton to the zoning board. Vicky Gibbs and Rusty Scott to the planning board. Is that the motion?
Well, yeah, I was just going with the zoning board right now.
Zoning board, okay. Okay, Linda Ogle and Steve Young and Les Hilton to the zoning board. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it.
Yeah, so next is the planning board. Just first off, for you guys, information, Penny Noyes has stepped down from the planning board. She's has some health issues that make it not possible for her to attend. She had missed quite a few meetings prior to. So there are a couple alternate members of the planning board who are interested in moving up to be a regular member, and that'll be discussed and dealt with at the next meeting. But right now, we have, for reappointment, Vicky Gibbs, who is an alternate member, she's seeking to be reappointed for 3 years again. And Rusty Scott, who is a regular member, is seeking to be reappointed for 3 years, and that was voted on at the last planning board meeting to recommend their reappointment.
Make the motion to reappoint them.
Rusty and Vicky.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to reappoint Vicky Gibbs and Rusty Scott to the planning board. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. And can we do up a letter for Penny, thanking her for her time on the board?
The planning board, I'll do one for you guys, and the planning board wants me to send a card to her as well.
Okay, yep, because that would definitely be appropriate.
Yep. Rob, do you have?
Livingston was already on board, and Margaret Hobbs was already on board. So we do have the opportunity to recommend another one,
Okay.
and that was tabled until the next meeting. Isn't that what you remember?
Yeah.
Leo was our select board representative on the Conservation Commission.
So do you want the select board to decide on whether to reappoint Alan or not, or I guess that's my question.
Yes, I would, Alan Carr has sought reappointment, and I don't think we voted on that one way or the other. It was discussed, and we assumed that, speaking not in the presence of the chairman, I will say that it's our intention to
Okay.
recommend that Alan Carr be reappointed.
Entertain a motion?
Make a motion to reappoint Alan Carr to the Conservation Committee. Second.
I've got a motion and a second to reappoint Alan Carr to the Conservation Commission. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it.
And just, I don't know, Rob, for sounds like you don't know, Alan Ryder has resigned from has stepped down from the Conservation Commission.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He dropped off stuff at the end of the day Friday,
Okay.
so,
I think business was keeping him in Maine quite a bit.
yeah, he wrote a letter, the Selectboard has one and stuff, so.
Okay, well, if you'd like to forward a copy of it to me, I'll make sure that it gets to the meeting
I think he's
next
got
time.
a copy going to you, I mean, we can give you one.
Well, it wasn't one in my box today, so
I don't know how, maybe we can mail it, but I'll give you one before you go if you want.
that's great.
Alright, so that's done. I guess since we're on the boards, I don't know what you guys wanna do as far as appointing each other to your designated boards. I know Shane was budget committee, Leon, you were, planning board, Leo was conservation commission. I just wanna make sure that when you decide as far as planning board, you should also, that there is a place for a selectmen's representative alternate as well. So when you decide who's doing what, I ask you to appoint that person as well.
Do the other board members have a preference? Do they wanna continue
I would continue on the budget.
on the budget? Would you wanna do the conservation
I can do
commission
the conservation.
and then also the alternate to the planning board? I believe that's how we have done it.
I do have county planning board on Wednesday night, so.
Yes, so do I.
I know, but you're an alternate, I'm the actual ex official member for the planning
Yeah.
board for the county, so.
So why don't we, continue with basically what we have had?
Yeah.
And we'll make Troy the alternate for the selectmen's representative on the planning board.
Can I ask, so who's coming to the Conservation Commission?
Troy,
Okay,
Troy Murray.
Hey, Ben, real quick,
welcome, Troy.
so you'll need somebody for the master plan committee, for the selectmen rep for that?
That's true.
I would say that would be me, cause that's kind of a planning board function also, so I will do that.
Very good, thanks, Leo. All right, a few more things, information. We got from DRA, they reviewed the contract, that you approved for Northtown Associates. They only had one, minor change, just concerning verbiage. It's referenced, the cyclical reinspection seclusion, or section indicates that DRA approved real estate appraisers shall conduct any value changes. They recommend that phrase, real estate appraisers, be changed to the recommended term of property assessor supervisor. So, Jason did get a copy of that letter. I'll make sure he follows through and just edits that section on. It's just verbiage, it's not a contractual, monetary, or service change. So you're aware of that. We got a letter from the Liquor Commission concerning Dollar General. Apparently, they made application to the Liquor Commission for a license to sell combination beer, wine, and tobacco. And if there's, so basically, it's, the way this works, if you guys have, or the town has any comment they'd like to share with the Liquor Commission, one way or the other, there's a certain time frame to do so. The last thing is, we got notice of zoning board approval from the town of Littleton, who issued a special exception as well as a variance for a cell tower in Littleton. And the reason we get those is because by law, it's not only the immediate abutters, but the communities within, say, 25 miles of that community, gets a notice of any, they're considered an abutter, basically. So that's why we got notice that they approved a variance and a special exception to allow a cell tower to go up in Littleton. And that's all I have.
Any of the selectmen have anything? We're good? I will have one thing. I know we had a very close vote on streaming these meetings, possibly. I would like, in the course of the next 3 to 6 months, that we take a look at that, see what the costs are, so we have an educated idea of where we were at. And if the other selectmen agree.
Absolutely.
I had a I'm sorry.
No, it's just a, kind of, would like to have that basis, so we,
Yep.
speaking with a little more knowledge and,
I did have a conversation with Chad Fillion before and after the meeting, and, told him that I'd like to speak with him, within the next couple of months to talk the same thing. What he can, what his thoughts are, what his, basically his expertise. I trust him, he's a straight shooter and he's really good at what he does, so,
okay,
so that is in the works already.
all right, thank you. And anything else?
Yeah, you guys, held a meeting at noon time 2 weeks ago before the regular scheduled meeting at 6:30. And apparently you hired him as the town manager. At that meeting, regular meeting at 6:30, you didn't announce it, why not? Was there
Because
some
didn't think it
reason-
was the
some reason
appropriate-
for not doing that?
No, just didn't think it was the appropriate time to do it.
When was the appropriate time to do it?
Well, in my personal opinion, not speaking from the board, it would have been sometime after town meeting. That's my personal opinion.
Well, everybody knew it well before town meeting, but they didn't hear it
In the
from you.
paper.
I think that it should have come from you at the meeting,
So,
that's just my opinion.
well, like I said, we bannered it about. And maybe it weren't a perfect decision, but like I said, and the board, previous board's free to speak their opinion on what it was. My opinion should have been after town meeting, but it was made when it was made, and
If I could speak on that too, we did talk to Ed about that as well, and he also thought we should wait, that's why we didn't announce it that
Till
way.
after town meeting?
Yeah, and then it changed again because the papers were after him to do a story on his retirement.
Yeah,
So he got a hold of us and asked us if it was all right to release it earlier as part of his story.
Yeah,
And
because
that's
when the town employee's telling it, well before town meeting, and, I'm just saying.
yeah, no, we tried to leave a lot of things up to Ed as far as that, because of timing and his comfortability.
Well, I guess I thought it should have been announced that night, but that's me. That's me.
yeah, and like I said, that was just a thought. Whether it was right or not,
Previously, we had a discussion here, and of course it wasn't formal, I'm not a formal part of it, but previously here, 3 selectmen had a discussion as to appointments should not be made till after town meeting, because the present board and the new member of the board should be involved in it, and you excluded him by making that decision before town meeting, him or all. I think it was improper. I mean, you waited till tonight to do planning and zoning and conservation commission, and I think that you should have, waited for the new select board member to come on board before you hired the town manager, but that's.
I can respect that opinion.
Well, you guys all agreed to it, as far as the board members went.
What was that?
You guys all agreed to that, aspect before about the board members, about the planning and zoning and conservation commission. I think it would hold true to the town manager, it's an appointed position, it's a higher position, and I feel that the new board should have been involved in it, not a member of the old board, I'm sorry.
Yep.
You can't take it back now.
No, and I can appreciate that opinion. Yes,
I had a couple of 3 questions that partly kind of relate to helping you get on board, Troy. And first one was, Troy told me he's very busy, hasn't been attending these meetings regularly because he has his state responsibilities, and I haven't seen him showing up in the minutes in other towns. He's probably been pretty busy, but I was wondering, Leon, from your experience as a state rep at the same time you were a select board member, do you have any advice or comments to help Troy? I'm sure he can manage his own affairs, but do you have any reflections on that conflict between the two?
well, it is a busy time. Thankfully, the House schedule usually leaves Monday nights open, so he should be able to do that. Troy's also very active down there and goes down some days when he doesn't necessarily have meetings. But also knowing being in the house, that you have that flexibility saying, Mondays I cannot be there, so I'm not gonna attend. So most committees and sessions are on Wednesdays, Thursdays,
Yeah.
and from what I understand, they're doing some Fridays.
Yeah, well, we only have 5 Zoom licenses down there. We can only possibly do a maximum of 5 meetings. We have 20 committees. I am a clerk and run one of the committees. I drew the short straw. They assigned me Fridays and Mondays, which is not, we're not supposed to do business on Friday and Mondays under the rules. So that's where I've been for the last 2 months. I finished my Mondays on the 1st. That was my last day. I exec bills all day that day for my committee. I am getting Senate bills, but that will not affect here. So, we have close to 400 bills we're gonna do on the 7th, 8th, and 9th in committee. A full house, 3 days in a row, so. This is our busy season, as Leon, the 18th, this Thursday is always crossover in the State House. So this is our really jam all the bills, bring them to the floor, and exactly. So that was, and I also had another conflict, because my wife had 2 major surgeries. So I had a couple of conflicts of not here, and I do attend all the other town meetings. I haven't attended these ones here, because there hasn't been an issue to attend at the state.
Well, I have
I've
to say,
attended Northumberland more than I attend here on Monday nights.
I looked at the minutes of the town meetings that you represent, and I didn't see your name in any of the minutes for the last year.
Well, I did a special hearing there for the building in Northumberland 3 weeks ago.
Well, it doesn't show up in the minutes.
The minutes aren't required to show everybody, just the
Okay,
participants.
but they do usually list everyone who's attending.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just,
usually,
I'm just saying
usually,
what I read, I'm not,
it's the participants, so maybe
Yeah.
they just haven't, I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, cause like I don't have
And,
to list, I don't have to list all you people.
so if there is a regional conflict, Leon, how did you manage that, when you had the position, you represent not only Lancaster, but other towns, and so how would you manage the situation where, you had to decide between Lancaster
Same
and...
district.
Usually I've had the same.
Generally, unless it was extremely important, the Lancaster Selectmen's meeting came first. I'm not saying there wasn't times where I had to miss a meeting because there was something going on elsewhere. But generally, I would say 95% of the time, town business, especially on a Monday, took precedence. So, it's busy. Troy's been down there for 2 or 3 terms
33
now,
terms,
so
yeah.
he's probably more adept at handling it than I was when I first started, because I was in my first term while being selectman also.
And you've been down there a couple, 3 terms, haven't you?
My 3rd term, yeah.
Starting to know the ropes a little bit. Well, I had a question for you, Troy. Mr. Sansucci wrote during the course of the campaign that our biggest problem, seemed to be looming problem, was the withdrawal of Carroll from the school district and the economic effects of that. And he implied that you could somehow help out with that or handle that in his letter. And I'm wondering, you're not on any of the education committees, and you're on a select board from a conflicting town, Carroll and Lancaster. And the town doesn't seem to really interact with the school board too much. So I wondered what your advice are, what are you thinking about the problem?
Well, I can tell you why the letter was written and discussed. 15 years ago, this popped up. They had voted to move from the district, and they negotiated a new contract. And that would be something that we have to do as a town, have input on that, not just the school board. As of right now, the way this is written, they're going from $41,000 to $72,855 per student in the town of Carroll. It's 25% of our budget. They have less than 4% of the students. They have 33 students there. They voted unanimously at town meeting last week to
I
pull
saw
out.
that.
The only thing we could do is try to negotiate it, maybe. They're not looking to cut it down overnight, but they're looking for some way to taper it off, so they're not paying the full amount. And that's something that we're gonna work on. Tonight's my first night, we haven't even had a chance to discuss it, so
Yeah.
I have a lot of input on that, and been discussing it. So,
Well, and just a little bit of history, this is not the first time,
right,
as you said, that Carroll talked about withdrawing. It's also, wouldn't be the first time if Lancaster decided that they wanted to look at it, because we did look at it back in the early nineties of withdrawing from the school district.
We heard a lot about it in the sixties at my dinner table, because my dad was chairman of the school board, and when they were trying to assemble it. And it is a tough thing. I respect it.
The,
Carroll taxpayers feeling like they've got a pretty heavy burden on their plate.
And I can tell you that Bethlehem or Littleton would scoop them right up, because everybody now knows that we have declining student populations. I mean, Lancaster is, I mean, RSAU has gone from, have lost quite a few hundred. I mean, we only have, what, 370 kids in the high school now. And we're really feeling the crunch. And these other towns are feeling the same crunch. Everybody's enrollments are down, and they'll gladly take the students on a dime. So we have to.
I'm not so much worried about what happens to the Carroll students, I'm more worried about what happens to my taxes
That's the problem.
when that valuation goes out.
There's gonna be an issue, because I can tell you, even when I was in the state house, we went to battle over the formula. And I gotta tell you, when you're sitting there and you're looking at the facts, and you look at some of these southern towns that aren't getting an increase in their aid, in their student populations increasing, and we've got student population decreasing, but our administrative costs are going through the roof. Something's gotta give. They have a point down there, and obviously up here, how much more can we go up on our taxes? So it's a statewide issue, and I'll just be blunt, our schools, SAUs, need to start controlling their costs.
There's no
You have
question about it.
SAUs down in the southern part of the state that have more students than all of Coas County. So why do we have more than one SAU up in Coas County? That's my personal opinion, I'm not speaking from the board.
Right.
But why do we have so many SAUs in Coas County?
Well, it's a live wire, no one wants to give theirs up once they have one, right?
Just to close, touch on, I am one of the 5 trustees for the North Country Charter Academy. And I'll be meeting with all the superintendents on Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. For just our Charter Academy, we cover 10 school districts. And it's not a very big area, not a lot of students. Now, that's millions of dollars right there in overhead cost. I mean, you look at Northumberland, they had, in 2008, almost 800 students. Now they have 300 and something students, and they have a superintendent, and they have all these people. But breaking contracts and pensions and everything else, it's a problem to ever combine them. But there is a tremendous amount of overhead. And when I sit at this meetings with the superintendents, and I've been doing this now for 6 years, I've been a trustee. It's amazing what they have to fight for to get their dollars every year. So, will this hurt if Carroll pulls out on us? Absolutely. When they're paying 25% of the fee on us right now.
Yeah, Charity, what's it, our school assessment is about a quarter of our combined tax rate, isn't it?
Sure.
I mean, we got the county and the state and the school and
Oh,
the
well,
local, so it's like $10 local, $10,
It is, yes.
and then $3 or $4 for the county and the state.
Oh, yeah, that's small.
Yeah.
The best way to put it, there's no easy solutions, but we need to start coming up with solutions, because our costs can't keep increasing and our student body
Yeah, it's gone down 20% in the last 10 years, student body has. Budget
More
has-
employees than students. Yet you still have a school board for big expansion and millions of dollars or whatever, and they had each in there for 2 years in a row. I think they ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Well, this is sort of a problem that I hope the master planning committee can consider some scenarios, because we usually try to focus on growth and how we can do better, but here we got a problem that's, I don't think we can grow fast enough to pay for this when the Carroll goes out, so maybe, master planning is kind of the planning function for the town, right?
Well, it's for growth, zoning and stuff. Gets to be kind of a sticky wicket, because the way we set up a separate school district, that's a separate government entity, and we have no control over that, unfortunately, other than our voters.
That's right, they're SB2 and we're town meeting,
Yep.
and it's all in the same town, yeah. Well, I do have one last question, and I kind of hesitate. to
Before you
bring it
move
up,
on,
but-
Rob?
Sit,
Rob,
yes.
before you move on, I just want to know if anybody knows how many kids have been siphoned off to the Catholic school and the charter schools and so on, homeschooling in the last few years. No idea.
Well, I don't have an accurate number, I can get that number. I can tell you, I filed a bill, I'm on the bill I co-sponsored, because they used the formula for free and reduced lunch going by last year's classes, and none of the kids were there. So we filed a bill, it passed, it's coming to the House now, passed the Senate, I was the co-sponsor. It'll get the $22 million back, using the old formula, not using the traditional, the formula they use every year. So they're getting that money back. And I can get some numbers out of that, because it's really big.
Well, that's an interesting question, because the statistics that you see about student population are based on enrollment at the SAU 36 level, right? It doesn't count in homeschoolers and everything else. I think the Mount Royal North has 3-4 grades now. And they're in a pretty small building, so they can't be more than about 30 or
I'm
40.
not sure, they add a grade every year, it seems.
Yeah,
They're about 40. About 40.
about 40. And how many do you have at the charter school in Lancaster?
It fluctuates.
Yeah. 10, 15?
No, we about 25.
Yeah.
We have 2 sessions,
Uh,
morning and an afternoon, but it fluctuates during the year.
Yeah.
Each district buys a slot. It could be used by 3 different students in a year, if they need a course here or a course there.
What happened to them? They got a zoning variance to go to a no-go gas station. Did that fall through?
No, that's dead. It passed the air test. We had a study done on it. We couldn't go forward with it. They wouldn't let us do it, the state, because of it was, the old fuels and stuff. So when they did the test inside the building, it failed. It would have been nice if it passed.
Lucy, you had a question? No, you're.
So my last one, I've gone back and forth about asking this, but just want to clear the air on it. There've been articles circulating about some court business with you and assault conviction, Troy. And I wanted to ask Shane what you'd been hearing around town, or people, I think it was guilty plea for assaulting an 18-year-old girl after a Camp 3 party in 2010. And I think it's very important that we put this to rest.
I haven't heard anything.
It's in the Democrat, and a couple of people sent me things that I didn't bring up during the campaign, because I think we both run in on our merits in the campaign.
The only thing that I had heard was what you emailed me, with them articles.
They're from the Democrat. It was somebody who ran against you at one time sent them to me, and I chose not to bring them up during the campaign, but something that's going around. I wondered if you had any comments about it, or?
No?
Anything else?
Just a reminder, Tuesday morning, I was meeting with Ben and Randy at the fire station, as a selectman drops us on the.
Okay. We'll hash that out. Yep. And with that, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Do you need a copy of it, Matt?
No, he made plenty of copies. It's not his work, it's the only contributing factor, so you might want to read that.
Okay.
Do you have, Justin Kennedy?